Hello there everybody, good morning and welcome back to howtotrade.com. Welcome back to another live stream here in our trading room, and of course across our social media channels. We are live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, we're live on LinkedIn, and we're also live on our X channel as well. So if you are around this morning, feel free to pop up and say hello in the chat room, and if you have any questions on the markets, of course this is always an open stream, so you're more than welcome to ask any questions you like, and I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. In today's stream, we're going to be looking at the Trend Rider strategy. It's a stream that I normally do, every single week, because the strategy is good. It's a good strategy, especially when the markets are trending, of course, hints in the name, and the markets are trending at the moment, and that's when we should be on high alert for these Trend Rider trades. If you are new to the streams and you've not seen any, Trend Rider streams before, I'll point you in the direction of how you can actually learn the strategy first. Other than that, I will probably assume that most of you are aware of how it all works, and if you're not aware of that, then you can put it in the chat room and I will stop the stream and I will sort of let you ask the questions that you need on the strategy itself. Good morning to everyone in the trading room. Martin174, Wizard, Alvin, Jeanette, R2GB, Danist, hello to you all. Hope you are all doing well. We have SB over on the YouTube channel. Hello to you, sir. I hope you're doing very well, and thank you very much for the message. I do have I've got through about 30-40 messages today, and I've got about 20 left. So if I haven't replied to you just yet, I promise you I am getting around to it really soon, and I will reply to you as soon as I can. I'll reply after the stream. If you are looking for where to find this stuff about the Trend Rider, I'll just point you in the right direction now. If you go over to howtotrade.com and you go over into our live trading room, it's completely free. You can go and have a look at the Trend Rider. Click Move Me to a New Path. Pause that video because that's me doing the video. Go to the learning resources, and then you can download the PDFs here where you'll see an overview of the strategy, a guide which is basically all the trading rules, and also some trade examples as well. Now hopefully you guys have been trading the Trend Rider over the last week or so. There has been some really nice opportunities. What we tend to do on this stream is we start from the top, and then we work our way down on these Forex pairs. Now, this strategy was designed for Forex pairs only, as I always say, but I have been applying them to some commodities and some stocks. Not really to too much success when it comes to implementing it on oil, for example. Had a lot of trouble with that one. It's just a learning exercise for me, really. I'm just sort of testing the strategy. If we have a look at the pound versus the US dollar, let me remove the Smart Money Concepts indicator, because the only indicators that we need are the EMA 12, which is the blue line, the EMA 36, which is the orange line, and also the ADX indicator, which I've got over on my Switch Markets account, which, as you can see, is here. I've got the ADX indicator. Now, you can use the ADX on TradingView as well, but for some reason, it's not as accurate. The MT4 one is your best bet. So I always follow what the MT4 one tells me rather than what the TradingView one tells me, to be honest with you. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. No, it's not, it's gone. There we go. Starting to get a cold, I think. So if we have a look at the pound versus the US dollar, as you can see, what we've had is a bearish crossover, which is where the blue EMA 12 crosses over the EMA 36. We had our first test. That probably wasn't a test. Our first real test was here, and you can see we had an 80 pip stop loss. And if we managed to, that was on Friday the 4th of October. Stop loss just above the EMA 36 in the orange. And as you can see, if I now move over to the ADX indicator, which will be on TradingView. 4-hour time frame. If we did manage to enter on this test, we probably would have had to close out, because you close out the trade when the ADX crosses back below the 40. So we would have probably closed out the trade roughly around here, so about 1.33 to 1. But you can see we then got multiple potential re-entries, and then what we've seen in recent times is the market consolidating. That's why the moving averages are doing this. And then you can see we've now just had quite a decisive another bearish crossover, and the gap there is 40 pips. So there is another opportunity coming on the pound versus the US dollar at the EMA 12 as it stands. 44 pip stop loss, and we'll see how this one goes. Now, people will probably say, well, the moving averages, these moving averages, EMAs, will obviously move. So when it actually comes to testing it, you may not get the moving average at 1.28679. It might be somewhere down here. Now, that's why it's important to, what I do, is set an alert sort of like 10 or 15 pips below where the current EMA 12 is, like here. Set an alert there. And then when that alert goes off, if you come back, it might be at least close to it, rather than sitting there staring all day and waiting for it to touch. You know, you can set that alert and you can move on. That tends to be what I would do. Just check there's no... hello to you, Curtin, as well. Good to see you. Thank you very much for the message. Yes, so that's my outlook on the pound versus US dollar. And you can see how easy this strategy is to follow as well. I'm literally just doing a top to bottom of all the markets, and this is what I do every single week. Now, we had an opportunity on euro dollar here. As you can see, the gap between we had a bearish crossover on the 4 hour. The gap between the EMAs is 38.8 pips. And if you put your stop loss just above the EMA 36, you can see that we would have just got stopped out before the market sunk. So if you are feeling frustrated about this, I can understand. I've been testing something where, because sometimes what you get, let's find an example like this, for example. Sometimes what you get is the market sort of wicking below the EMA 36 before it going higher again. So instead of putting your stop loss on the EMA 36, test it by putting it 10 pips above. So that's 40. So where's a 50 pip stop loss? Would have been there. And you can see by doing that, we would have survived the trade. Now, obviously, you do sacrifice some profits doing this, because obviously your risk reward will be less. However, I've been testing that, and I'm telling you, from my experience, I found that a bit more successful. It just allows you to have a bit of breathing room when it comes to the EMA 36, because sometimes the market will threaten to trade above the EMA 36, but then wick and close below, almost like a liquidity grab. And that's something that I wanted to show you today, in terms of how we can sort of counteract sometimes when the market sort of just touches the EMA 36 and then rejects instantly. Hello to you, Clive. Good to see you, and I hope you're doing well. So this trade, if you did do that, obviously I've not told you that before. So if you didn't, then it's a learning point for next time. Maybe you can try and implement that. And this trade, let's see if we had an exit signal anyway. No, we haven't. If I go onto the MT4, if you look at the MT4, where did we enter? Roughly at this level, and you can see as that price has collapsed lower, you can see that ADX indicator is showing an increase in the trend strength. So what we're now waiting for, if you were in this trade, this is an example, is the market to keep trading above it and then eventually dip back below. And when it dips back below, that's when we close the trade. Okay? So it's really, really easy to follow. So this is a good little learning example. There was another perfect example here on USD versus the Swiss franc. And I said to you guys that when these markets start to trend like around the election time, and when that's digested, you can see another bullish crossover this time after a period of consolidation. Look at that. Period of consolidation. So we never would have entered in any of these. And then when you get that next cross, that first test, when the gap is 30 pips or more, there it is. What was the actual gap? 34 pips. Let's make it 44 to cover any sweeps of the 36. And look at that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Again, if you missed that, okay, now let's have a look, like Wizard Alvin said, let's now just take a look at the USD versus the Japanese yen. Because this strategy doesn't always work, of course. There's times where it doesn't. You can see that the market had a bullish crossover here, because I always try and get in at the first test. Otherwise, you can be too late to the entry. Like if you see where the market crossed over here, that was the entry. Look how much the market trended. If we try getting in here and here and here and stuff, you may have been stopped out. So that's why I always get in at the first test. You can see that the market, the price touched. We had an 84 pip stop loss, and you probably would have been stopped out of that. But the profits made from Eurodollar and USD Swiss franc more than compensates for this loss. We're getting a similar sort of thing here, where you can see that we are still in bullish territory, but remember the pip value of USD yen is a lot more than the pip value of Eurodollar. And so when it comes to USD yen, and this is someone in the room told me to do this, instead of using 30 pips, which would have been an entry and it would have been a profitable entry, try and use 0.3%. So you see this percentage there. Try and use that figure for the USD yen rather than, or just use it in general for any of the pairs, Eurodollar or any of the USD pairs. Use the percentage figure rather than the pip value. You might find a bit more success because the pip values are different for each pair, obviously. So at the moment, we can see, if I just go and have a look at the gap at the moment, 0.25%. We want that to be 0.3%. So in the next sort of day or so, if this continues to go higher, you'll see those moving averages start to converge. Okay. And you might just find that you get a test somewhere up here where the gap is at least 0.3%, like that, 0.38%. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so it's not quite ready just yet, but it's shaping up to be a good trade on dollar yen as well. So a successful one on Eurodollar. If you okay, let's call it an unsuccessful one then, but a lesson learnt in terms of how we can sometimes avoid the liquidity sweeps on the EMA 36. Really successful one on USD versus the Swiss franc. We've got shaping up potential for pound dollar and USD yen. AED USD, we have got a bearish crossover here. The gap is 0.29%. So we're shaping up again for another opportunity. So I'm going to set an alert some point below the EMA 12 just to get ready for that entry, because that is a bearish crossover, and that first test could have a 0.3% gap. So there's another opportunity there. NZD USD, not quite. You can see that gap's only 0.18%. So we're not quite ready for that one. But again, that's something that could be shaping up. We are sort of still consolidating here a bit more on New Zealand dollar versus the US dollar. USD CAD. Again, a continuation, another bullish crossover. The gap at the moment, though, is only 0.14%. And therefore, that's not quite an entry. So let's wait. Let's be patient. Remember, you only want to expose yourself to one of these trades at a time. So if the USD CAD isn't quite working, but you know that the pound dollar's got more of a gap, well, then you know that the pound dollar's trending more. So that's the best, and that's the best one to trade. Really, really simple trading. Gold. I bought gold. I brought your attention to gold last week about how we had that bearish crossover, and you can see as the market came down, we had a 1% gap. So say you went short here, stop loss at the EMA 36, boom. Beautiful trend riding trade on gold, which it isn't really designed for that. However, you can see how that's worked really nicely. Silver. Again, look how the price has respected that EMA 12 going down. Absolutely beautiful. Lots of it, probably this entry. What was that? 1.1%. you have to be a bit careful. You have to sort of, when you go on to the other pairs, you have to sort of determine to yourself and say to yourself, what sort of gap am I comfortable with? Because there is no predetermined rule. So it is important to test. And I think around 1% on the commodities is about right. Yeah, about 1%. Okay. Let's have a look at the S&P 500 because we have got a bullish crossover, and for the first time since that bullish crossover we do have a test. Now this is a bit of a unique situation because this market is is seriously overextended to the top side. However, there is a trend rider opportunity right now on the S&P 500. We've got a big enough gap in that. Let's have a look to see what the ADX is telling us, because it might be. Yeah, look, you can see that ADX has come from astronomical heights. And so that's why I'm very careful entering when the ADX is so above 40. It doesn't mean it's not a valid entry, but there is, I think, more of a risk that this trade becomes a loser, or at least a risk that the market comes and tests the EMA 36. So what I would prefer to do is wait, to be honest, for this one. I think we're going to see something similar on like the US 30. Yeah, you can see we're coming to a test very soon. The NASDAQ hovering around it. What's the NASDAQ telling us at the moment in terms of the ADX indicator? Let me just have a quick look. So looking at the tech sector, US tech. Okay, so there's potential. If you're going to buy the stock market on this trend rider, the NASDAQ looks the best one. Even though those moving averages are starting to fall, you can see how we are getting rejections there, and we've already had a bit of a collapse in the ADX, which means this trend, this holding pattern that we see, is enough to bring the ADX lower. So there's no reason why we couldn't get another tick higher here and another tick higher in the NASDAQ. So for the stock market, for me, this NASDAQ trade is probably your best bet if you're going to look to try and go long via the trend rider strategy. German stock index, as you can see, is a bit of a mess. Euro yen, there it was. 54 pip stop loss. Well, let me just check the, was it 0.3%? Oh. Oh, it wasn't quite. Sorry, let me get it. Oh, it was. There we go. Another entry there, Euro yen. Boom. Now, my biggest advice that I can give you all is, if you're not in any of these trades, right, is to just wait. Just let the market settle. Wait for those moving averages to at some point close together, and then get the next crossover. Because that crossover, it's not just going to keep, that crossover there will be a new crossover at some point. It might take a few weeks, but there will be a new crossover and there will be another opportunity. So it's very important with this trend rider, if you don't get in, is not to now go, right, well, I'm going to get in here. Because I always say that you want to try and get in at the first test. Okay, that's the most important thing. Pound versus the Japanese yen, look, you can see that we've got a little bit of a bearish crossover here. So again, let's wait for the price to do what it wants to do. Let's say it collapses, because what will happen is the moving average will go with it, and then we'll get an opportunity. Okay. Oil. There's actually a couple of confluences here for oil. Now, I really don't want to do this, because I've lost a couple of trades on oil on the trend rider this over the past couple of months. But you can see we've got that bearish head and shoulders, right? You can see that head and shoulders pattern. And at the same time, we haven't quite tested the neckline yet, and we are coming up to a potential entry here. The gap is 1.5%. Okay? So you could do this at your own risk. But there would be the trade. Bit of a wide stop loss. And even if you just targeted the neckline, you can see you could still get a 1.56 to 1 trade, which isn't too bad, right? And yeah, that's a bit of a top to bottom on the current situation with the trend rider. So to summarize, there's opportunity coming on the pound versus US dollar. I don't know if my screen's a bit fuzzy. I do apologise. I need to turn the monitor on and off. Euro dollar, there's been a really nice trade already. USD Swiss franc, really nice trade. Dollar yen is shaping up. Aussie dollar is shaping up. USD Swiss franc, USD CAD, sorry, is potentially shaping up. Gold, beautiful trade. Silver, beautiful trade. S&P 500, not quite confident in this one because of where the ADX already is. US 30, shaping up. NASDAQ, I think is a good entry potentially even now. NZD USD, not quite, nothing really there for us. Nothing there for the DE40. Euro yen, nice trade. Potential re-entry coming up, but just lower that risk. Pound versus the Japanese yen, nothing yet at the moment. And oil is a trade that potentially could be executed if you wish. And they're all the markets that I trade. I'm just going to quickly pause because that's probably quite a lot of information to take in. Curtin says, do I now prefer the trend rider to SMC? No, I don't. No. I have to say I sort of I'm running both on separate accounts, on separate journals sort of thing. And I'm having a bit of success, on the trend rider. And what helps with the trend rider is if you're someone who's busy, in my busy times at work, the trend rider works for me because it just allows me to not be on the charts all the time. You can see I've just done that in 20 minutes, and I was talking through it. I could do that on my own in probably 5 or 10 minutes easily. And that's a lot calmer and easier way of trading than the SMC way. So my answer to that, Curtin, is no, I don't prefer it to SMC, but sometimes it's a lot more, convenient, should I say. Okay, so my task now, what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to post one of these trend rider opportunities in the room. If you are on the live streams, then you get sort of bonus access to all of them. So that's why it's important to turn up to the live streams, because I'm not going to post all of them, but I'll post one of the ones that I like in the trading room for you as a trade idea. So keep an eye on that. And if anyone does have any other questions about anything, I'm about to work my way through the messages now, so please bear with me. And until then, of course, I hope everyone has a good trading day. Trade well, trade safe, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the next stream. Cheers.